they will go for Hylos. Right now, Sands and Kyrie from ONIC. Who do you think they will go for? But Kyrie, of course, Kyrie, Yi Sun-shin is already picked, so, you know, he's going to choose a gold laner.
Sometimes teams, they are choosing 2 marksmen, and they will play this combo of 2 marksmen, and others will be a tankies and other things. But for now on, for ONIC, they have Esmeralda, they have Eve and Yi Sun-shin. Against Hylos, they need to have an announcer for it, because they ban Khalid and they ban Catcher. Harris is open, and Granger and Chu.
Granger and
Chu and Chu.
Makes a lot of sense, actually. It makes a lot of sense. They're taking risks in that, actually. ONIC, they're very ballsy of them to go for the Granger pick in the gold lane. Right now, the Aurora actually might go for another fighter if they are kind of like worried about the picks, but they might also go for a gold laner since they have Harith open. So do you think they're going to go for Harith in that case?
Harith, it's a good, with Hylos, Lancelot, and Labo and Zushin, because Harith is still open and it can be a perfect with their combo. Because Khalid was perfect for me, but they banned Khalid and they protected because it can continue.
Yeah, Harith is the most logical actually pick from Aurora's side, because if they pick the fighter, it would be a little bit hard for the fighter to reach.
Across the board here is pretty much what we've been seeing for the past maybe 3-4-ish months, and these are some of the most comfort best picks for these players on both sides.
I actually was going to say that. Like, this is so comfort. Like, did they even draft? Like, I think everyone just got exactly what they wanted. No questions asked. It feels like ONIC is, I actually don't blame it. Our analysts are a little bit split on this one. Just because it feels like it's so good for either of them. It can go either way.
Yeah, part of this is, I don't know, if you look at both and what we've seen throughout Games of the Future so far for 2025, it is a whole lot of roam impact, which has always been the case. So if you look at the teams that have had the most, and these are the teams that really is the roam pressure. Like roam, especially the Cho, for example, this is key bowler, and he's got his Cho pick. We've seen him do this in many stacking roams, right? We go ahead and get those pickoffs. This is a very extended roam in comparison. For example, if you compare it to Hylos is not your roam. He's mainly the utility and lay down the glorious pathway. Yes, he has a stun, but essentially he's there to go ahead and provide either a quick way to follow or to disengage or to cut off the opposing team. But the way that Light plays the high a little different too. That's another thing you have to take in consideration. Again, Light being one of the most aggressive roams in professional MLBB. Oh, mid lane. Oh.
That speaking of aggression, right after getting the real world, they go for the fight, and Sans gets first blood. Of course, Demon Kite gonna not let that go unpunished. Gonna go ahead and get that kill, so it's a 1-for-1, and that's both of our mid laners. Actually, no, it's Kyrie falling on the other side, so that's gonna slow him down a little bit, man.
Yeah, that's tough. You die early as a jungler, you're gonna have some difficulty, right? But you got to be able to catch up. YSS is pretty good at doing that, though, even if you have your late start into the transition here. So they're going to fight for this turtle. There's going to be no contest for this, as you mentioned, with Kyrie going down. So they go for that. Now, part of this, too, is, again, they forced that fight in the mid. But as soon as those level 4s were available, RORA Gaming Philippines knew that they had basically an advantage that they could work with. And this is the thing, too. You don't see too often the aggressiveness in the gold lane from our previous teams, right? But for example, this is Dominkite and Skylar. Skylar having a massive history of performances throughout Indonesia. Dominkite making a name for himself over the years, and this is the most classic matchup you'll see, a Harith versus a Granger. For a while, people were tired of seeing this. Maybe they still are, and that's why the gold lane has changed up so much lately, where now you can put those fighters in the gold lane, but they're essentially going to be doing the same thing. They want to go ahead and scale into it, that mid to late game. They both sort of scale around the same timing. Now, if one of them can solo kill each other, which we've seen before, whether that be the Granger or the Harith, then that gives them that little bit of an advantage to work with. But right now, it's basically a stalemate across the map. If you look at, again, the reason why this draft is, we say it's so balanced, not just because of the comfort, but because of the way that the timing plays out for these compositions. They're not going to be crazy action-packed early games like we've seen previously. They're going to mostly fight around if they force something in the mid before the turtle comes up, or it'll be around the turtle fight.
I actually completely agree. I feel like these are both like just so balanced. There's just a little bit of like deviation, like who spikes faster. Sometimes they can spike a little bit faster. Some heroes, especially like you're talking about the Harith and the Moskov, right? Sorry, it's Harith and the Granger on top side. It's actually really good for both of them. Sometimes if you can get a really good catch, the Harith can just burst down the Grangers, stuff like that, right? So, yeah, absolutely. It feels like both of these gold laners are actually very heavily affected by the patch, but very happy to play it. Ooh, lots of understrikes being locked in by ONIC. This might be actually a pretty good fight for them. See if that's going to happen. Lupi is getting a little bit of lantern flare treatment there and gonna get bursted out before even casting anything. Even has the green on his ultimate right now, and that's a second turtle going over to Aurora Gaming here from the Philippines.
It's another pickup. Again, objective plus a kill that they can work with. You know, these being spread out here. Edward? Ooh. He's going to get away. Oh,
man. Oh, look at that, Kiboy, with the insurance policy right at the back. It's going to help you catch up if you're Kyrie.
I was going to say, that's essentially what you need to do if you're ONIC, you know, and great catch there for Keyboy to be there on time. Great communication from ONIC to make that play happen. And, you know, technically throughout the series that we've seen here, Rockhart, for RORA Gaming Philippines, it's usually Edward getting, you know, having trouble in the early game where he's focused on, he might get some early deaths, but he always makes up for it. Like, that's one of the things about why he's called Mr. Consistent and all his other acronyms that he has for his names for him, because he has that potential to be able to do this. Is Lupi gonna have some trouble here? He is an Esmeralda, he's gonna get dragged.
Oh, man, look at that. Lupi has more sustainability now. It's like a 1v2. Oh, off-cam kill there for Edward, by the way. They're taking a lot of pressure on the mid and taking out Light with them as well. Of course, Lupi is going to be the sacrificial lamb for that, but it feels like it's very worth, especially for ONIC.
Yeah, see, ONIC is starting to at least find these little wins. These little wins across the map, they're starting to go ahead and shift the momentum, which they need to do. Again, when you lose in the jungle, you lose your jungler early on, I should say. You kind of have to go ahead and cover the other lanes, the other grounds here. They might actually potentially, if they can take the third turtle once it's up, that's the best thing for ONIC, because right now Aurora Gaming is, especially with getting the first tier 1 turret down, maintaining a bit of a lead. Now, this lineup, like I said, for ONIC is essentially still capable of getting that numbers advantage just by playing around Keyboy. And so, hovering around this mid lane, they want to go ahead and clear it. Light's going to go ahead and go for it. Oh, okay, he actually disengages. Thought he was going to drop the Glorious Pathway down, but this fight for the third turtle, half health.
They're actually holding on to their ultimates very, very well, especially here for Aurora. They're having a lot of ultimates ready for the fight. They get the turtle and they kill very stocked. Aurora Gaming PH, that's 1.8k gold lead for them, and they're not done yet. Nice, so I think they want to keep on going for more. They don't forget they still have that Glorious Pathway. Decides to just play a bit more carefully after that.
It's one of the things you can do. Again, it's positioning, right? Light was in the perfect position. He was right there in that bush. Didn't even really need to do too much. It's just the presence of that Hylos again and having that revitalize you. The difficult part for ONIC and their lineup is actually dealing with that. I mean, at some point, Keyboy on the Cho, whether he's able to get a pick off or not, if he gets stunned and stopped in his tracks, you know, he can get low pretty quickly, or he has to burn the flicker. Lupi as well, man. Lupi 0-3. Your Esmeralda usually is the one that's kind of, they would say, you know, Esmeralda's kind of unkillable. She's tough to deal with. But when you have this kind of crowd control offered with this lineup from Aurora Gaming, and then that follow through with the amount of damage early game that a Lancelot provides you to an extent too, in the way the Keyboy.
It's a free man knockup on the G Kundo. Actually, right close by is Sans. Gonna get lots of kills and some decent DPS despite obviously the Harris being there. They're gonna push back and we're gonna join the fight just a little bit. Loopy's actually quite low. I don't think ONIC wants to go for this one, and they will not. So pretty good pickoffs happening here for ONIC. But again, being traded almost instantly by Aurora that time.
It's always the difficult part about being a Cho player. You know, all the Cho players out there know what it's like. You got to go in, Jikundo, or set up your kick, and essentially you're kind of sacrificing yourself in a way, right? You want to go in and get that set up for your team, but you know that it's going to be very difficult to get away, especially if you use the flicker to initiate. But nonetheless, what ONIC has been able to do here, Rockhart, is stay within grounds. Like, it's not anything too crazy of a lead that Aurora Gaming has over ONIC, which puts them in a position that they can actually contest this Lord if they want to. Skylar is going to go ahead and get that turret down, picks up a Sky Piercer as well. So the scaling here on both sides for the gold laners are going to start to show. Sky Piercer 2 for Yue. There's the kick.
Okay, there you go. That's what you want to get started here. Light will use the Glorious Pathway to dig out. Edward misses on the Landshaker, and actually that might force them to go back. Oh. Skylar, look at this guy. He's just going bananas. Throwing bullets left, right, and center, taking down Edward in the process. And now they're pushing Aurora Gaming back. They seem to be the ones who are in control of this Lord Pit.
Yeah, they're going to go that. And meanwhile, exactly when he got the Sky Piercer, he gets a kill. So they have positioning here, but I think Aurora Gaming wants to go for this.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Look at Demon Kite, though. 4 throws just to buy a little bit more time, but not going to be enough for him to go for the steal. Kyrie this time has massive control on that turtle, or sorry, that Lord. And they're going to be able to get that one. Going to be great for taking down those turrets on mid and bottom. Get more golds into their pocket.
That is the quickest I feel like I've seen a Lancelot get zoned in on it and taken out. I mean, it was more so of an attempt to like just go for it for Demon Kite to see if he could potentially get in the position to try to retribution steal that away. But ONIC played that really, really well. They knew that that was going to happen, and they timed it greatly. So now with this, Lord's pushing up top. ONIC will go ahead and continue to open up the map. They want to get this mid turret down. It's just a couple hits away, and Aurora Gaming are going to have to just give this one up as they prepare for the tier 2s. Keyboy giving information that Demon Kite was getting his orange. Now putting the pressure for the purple. They'll take that away. Now let's see. Aurora Gaming with their backs against the wall in this defense for now. They still got the holy shields and everything else. Still going to be fine, but this is where we have to start to see that time that they've built up, and now that this favor is for ONIC, can Aurora Gaming get a team fight that they're looking for? So far, you see what's happening here, Rockhart. If Light is the one that gets kicked, it kind of messes things up a little bit. You know, you got to give props to Keyboy for being able to get that target acquisition down.
Yeah.
All they're going to get off this is some of those shield defenses being popped. The top one goes down. They still maintain the tier 2 turret in the mid. But again, for Keyboy, that's what is so admirable for the Chos that are able to pull that off. They get the right targets. That kick alone changes that cadence of the fight, and that's why they were able to win that last one that did break out. And this is start to be an increasingly more of a problem, especially for the Granger. You start getting stacks. Aurora Gaming has to take that into consideration, you know, and just so the team fights that have been breaking out. Looking at the items too, even though Lutby had a difficult time in the early game, you know, 3 early deaths, he's essentially tanky enough in a way, especially now that he's got the oracles and the enchanted talisman and he's got the ice shield, that he can actually take some of the damage. Yeah, he's actually a lot tankier just off those items. And so that's something they have to watch out for. Aurora Gaming, though, they'll be able to clear this out. Light dropping down the Glorious Pathway once again defensively. But you're seeing what's happening here, Rockhart. They're just kind of cut off from the rest of the map.
That's true. I think that's a big point, right? Like, Light, despite being the tankiest member of Aurora Gaming, actually is not as tanky on his own as Lutfi, right? Light needs that Glorious Pathway to regen the HP. You need that Revitalize. So that's all, like, slowly just regenerating your health. You're not really, like, built like a rock or anything, right? So if you can catch that, if you can stop the regen before it happens, the Hylos are surprisingly squishy.
Aren't you a Hylos main? Or was.
Yes, I'm speaking from experience.
I was going to say, speaking.
Yes, that's exactly what I mean.
Top Philippines, high-lows at one point, right? I mean, I know you have a ton of experience with the high-lows, and that's exactly what we're seeing kind of happen here to Aurora Gaming. They are going to go ahead and get in position for this Lord, though. Again, broken walls, something always to consider in the team fights around here. But look at the poke. The poke of the Granger is what that advantage is in comparison to the Harith as well. You can go ahead and fire off some of these shots of the Destinata, keep them at bay. Again, that space for Skylar is so important here too. So they'll go ahead and reset the Lord. A glorious pathway drop down.
Oh, there you go. That's more proactive right now this time for RORA Gaming. And now they're chasing Lutfi, which will be protected very well by Sans. That real-world manipulation. There's just no way they can play around that. But look at Edward. He's trying to go for it. Great placing on Landshaker, but he will get taken out. Just not enough DPS right now for Aurora Gaming to make any difference in the team fights, except for Doming Kite. He is definitely the guy who is making it work, at least making sure that Aurora PH can kind of do something in a team fight, but it is still just a massive amount of lead, a massive amount of control for ONIC Indonesia.
They're still going to go for this rock card. They're trying to get an opening here. Oh, they tried. Doming Kite was swinging around. The Kite brothers were trying to make something happen. Because again, that last team fight, man, this is some of the most, again, this is some of the highest level of MLBB, right? You saw how many battle spells were used, the flickers to avoid Edward, for example, when he went in with the Landshaker to get that stun off. If he would have gotten the stun off with the Landshaker, then it would have been a completely different team fight. But because of, again, great usage, great timing from ONIC to avoid that, then they reinitiated after taking out Light, gives them that advantage. So a whole lot of resources used up. The Lord's going to charge into this top base turret. We'll see. It is going to be cleared out rather quickly, though, because once again, these lineups are so balanced across the board for this game one. And you're seeing that. So ONIC, they'll have to go ahead and decide, can we go ahead and get a base turret down? They still have these waves to deal with, but at best, they might get one base turret. RWM drop down.
Well, that's if they can actually win this team fight, which look like they're going to be able to take out Sans. Aurora Gaming definitely going to do great with that -1, but look at Lutfi. He's diving in on the middle of that pack and doing some decent damage, pushing back Aurora Gaming. I mean, they look like they had some momentum, but again, a great pushback from that Esmeralda.
Yeah, it's actually pretty impressive, though. Aurora Gaming holding on with that push. It doesn't really matter that they're down 4,000 gold. Like, that's what I'm saying with these lineups. It's more so of a chess game when it comes to these team fights and that execution factor. You know, even with that lead that ONIC has, it's not so easy for them to actually strong arm Aurora Gaming Philippines with this. Edward does he just recently picked up a Chastised Pauldron. That item actually does really well against certain marksmen. You can see this too, even defensively. Light, he's dealt with this all game, man. But finally, you know, he's got 3 core defensive items locked in, the Dom, Ice, Anti-Cuirass, Radiant Armor here too, to kind of help with the amount of damage that's coming out from Sans. You saw it from the last fight. He's already got his Divine Glaive too. So I'm assuming he's still going to be going even more magic damage here too on this Eve. I don't know if he wants to even get any defensiveness for Sans just yet, because he hasn't really dealt with that pressure. Like, he's just kind of relying on the flicker, and he's pumping out the damage. Meanwhile, Skylar is as well. Fighting into the real world manipulation is the best thing that ONIC has right now for them, and it's allowing that space to be there. So it's a chess match, you know, and 20 seconds for this Lord to come up. Aurora Gaming, they'll most likely contest it. They will not let any of this just go by. This is a little bit more difficult, once again, for ONIC. The tankier Light gets, and Edward, it doesn't have to all just fall onto Light's hands now. Like, Edward can be the one to go ahead and kind of start these fights up like we saw him previously. And you never know, if he goes and gets in that stun and that lands this time, that might change that course of the fight. Immortality being picked up here by Keyboy too. Once again, giving a little bit of that extra time that he might need to escape after setting up the Way of the Dragon, the kick. So this positioning is super important here. Neither team's probably going to fully commit to this unless they catch someone out. A beacon used, though, from UA. So that not being available actually is very helpful for ONIC, but the Lord evolves now at the 18-minute mark.
Yeah,
so
that's a few seconds
difficult,
that
a little difficult to take.
So you're absolutely right. Again, it's all about whether or not Aurora can actually tank for real world. And as time is progressing, they actually might be able to. But here comes that big fight we're talking about. They're diving straight into the back line, and that's going to be the jungler for Aurora Gaming removed already. And now it's a 4v5, and they are going to have to make a run for the hills if they want to survive. And they're going to be able to take out Luffy. But looks like all that's going to be left on the field is going to be Tom and Kai. It's 1v3. It's only a Harif. What are you going to do? You got a big wave on the middle, and I think that's exactly what ONIC is just going to capitalize. No need to go for the Lord this time around. 24 seconds on the death timers at earliest. That feels like game.
ONIC winning that fight around the real world manipulation. Exactly what I was talking about would be the hard thing for